I apologize. I have not sent out the minutes of April 8th or May 16th. I will diligently work on those.
So are we continuing?
We should continue those until our next
Do I make
meeting.
a motion to continue
That'd be terrific.
those 2 dates?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, election of officers. Well, we are down 3 board members today, and as you
It must be because of that.
must be, and funny if there is a chair, vice chair, and clerk position open, then there are 3 vacancies. Very coincidental. So we do have the position of chair, vice chair, and clerk. Currently, I'm chair. Linda is vice chair, and Christy is our diligent clerk. Thank you, Christy. I'm okay if we want to continue this until the next meeting as well, so we can have hopefully more than just a bare quorum to make nominations, etc. Frankly, I'm happy to continue as chair. However, I will ask for help for scheduling meetings, which seems to be our biggest hurdle, if we're being completely honest.
So I'm just, because I'm new.
Yeah.
So instead of having like a regular 3rd Monday or Sunday or whatever of the month, it's sort of.
Please make sure your mic is on. Is it green?
Press the button anyway.
There you go. Perfect. We had been doing that for a while, and then frankly, the challenge has been A, scheduling, just getting everybody's schedules
Right.
to coincide, B, finding a good time, and C, finding space availability.
Space
That has
availability.
Yeah, as John said, we were kind of were on a system, but then there were some outside parties that we wanted to include whose
Right.
schedules didn't conform with the usual time, so we kind of got out of rhythm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering, because sometimes that makes it easier for scheduling.
No,
No,
and I think that's where we're going to be
I have
going.
also found that it has
So
not mattered at all, and people still can't make it, even though they know a year in
Right.
advance. So who knows?
So, John, if it helps, I mean, Megan in our office schedules things for me all the time. So I will, if it's useful, why don't we? Do we want to like? I think we had been meeting like Mondays at 1, like every 3rd, or I can't remember
Right.
which one. But I can. Why don't I try to book something in that vein, and then we can discuss. We know we have a space, and we can discuss the dates at
That'd
the
be-
next one with everyone.
Yeah, I
think
think
that's
if we
excellent.
know what rooms are available,
Yes,
it
well,
makes
that too.
scheduling a lot
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
And we were really late because the
most
lifeguards had to go in there, and the water company wasn't where we've met in just about
Right.
every public space imaginable,
Right.
other than like the beach.
Well, on the AgCom, we started going to the table.
Yeah.
Because you could at least meet there.
Right.
And it's so hard when you don't have haven't fit into a
Right.
regular piece.
So I'll organize like a regular monthly meeting time and location.
Beautiful.
And we can confirm that next time. But then we also will get into discussing the special thing.
And I think that's right. And again, I would ideally like to have the other 3 board members present for this, but we should have public hearings in the afternoons or evenings, especially so we can attract some of the summer residents who are interested in our topics.
Yeah.
So we'll work on doing that certainly before.
I think we need to determine that today. I don't think we can
Okay.
wait for the other people.
Yeah.
That's
And
fine.
I mean,
That's
I
fine
think
with
that
me.
otherwise there wasn't a point in having a meeting if
Yeah.
we're not going to do anything but defer in order
Hmm.
to facilitate 3 people who weren't able to be here. Because it's going to happen to all of us, right?
Yeah.
When we're not able,
Right.
and it shouldn't really stop
That is perfectly fine with me to schedule afternoon, evening meetings for the public. Doing so.
So just to interrupt, which I'm terrible at, so feel free to stop me. So my question is, as far as the public meetings, public hearings, we're thinking of more than one.
I think that's right. I think at least, it's going to sound silly, but I think at least 2 for the time being for July and August. I think that's certainly showing the bare minimum for that. Then the other ones would be getting involved with the Civic League, doing something with the Civic League.
Nantucket Association.
There you go.
So then are we trying to be in the public, I'm just trying to wrap my head around what we're trying to present. Are we doing an educational thing? Are we doing a feedback thing?
So,
Are
yeah,
we-
so wait, just to go
ahead.
back to the agenda, where
Sure.
are we on the agenda?
Well, we have jumped out of order, but now we're taking the discussion of time, date, location, public hearings throughout the summer.
So we're doing
instead
8.
of we're doing 8 instead of 6.
And we'll go back to 6
We'll
and
go back to
And we'll go
6.
back, okay.
Yep.
So, I think the idea, I was thinking about this on the way over here. Like, I think the idea has always been to share with the public some of what we have been taking in from different interviews and so forth that we have done. We've not discussed or come up with recommendations by any stretch at this point. There's no consensus, if you will, about, what we should be recommending. This is really to hear from folks who haven't come to attend some of the other
Great.
sessions.
That's,
Yeah.
that's super.
So-
That's super.
Yeah, but I think we have to have some structure to it. And there are different things that we have heard about, pros and cons and so forth. And I'm wondering if we don't want to try to somehow get like some quantitative feedback, if you will, as well as qualitative feedback in these sessions. So, for
Okay.
example, I'm thinking of, I'm on the board of the Community Foundation. Every year we do kind of a roundtable with different folks, the police chief and folks from, all representing all different areas of the island. Once a year to hear about the things that are most pressing that maybe aren't necessarily on, front and center on the radar screen. And so when we do that, we kind of do a polling of folks. And when they come to the meeting, we have all these issues up on the wall and we give people dots, and basically they go and put a dot where they feel
interesting.
is the most pressing issue. So at the end, you get kind of a visual representation of where people's thinking, at least from the group that shows up.
That's a clever idea.
Well, I think some things like that would help us in, getting a greater feel.
That's
That's
right.
And I think it also allows people who may not be so comfortable speaking in public or what have you to express an opinion.
Yeah. That's a real interesting idea.
So just to try and go, because I love the idea that we're going to gather information that's publicly helpful in helping introduce what the options are, but not with determination on any of the options, and then engaging the community. I think that has real potential for positive outcome,
Yeah.
where they
Oh, yeah.
are feeling like engaged. And because I know I did get that paper
At town meeting.
at town
Yep.
meeting,
Yeah.
which was an alert that it was even sort of going on,
Sure.
right? So, but that was really
And that's something that we'll
and
have at the
helpful.
forum.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to not just do July and August, but try to do September and October
I
for
think-
the year round.
I think that's right. I think that's right too. I mean, I think I feel like we're going to have potentially a different summer schedule as we are fall schedule, but regardless, I think that we should have public hearings to accommodate both summer and
So
year
in
round.
July, are you thinking, let's take just July because we're nigh on halfway through. So that makes it sort of present. Are we thinking we want to do one in the late afternoon, in the morning, televised,
I
not?
think afternoon or evenings. I mean, so I think, realistically, as you say, we're already at least a fourth of the way into the month. So it may make sense to try to target something like July 29th or 30th, something in that time frame.
Yep.
To do an afternoon or early evening event.
We
I
ever
think-
thought of doing a morning one?
Well,
I'm just thinking about if we're trying to engage people that are here but aren't year round. Camps and stuff start, so they send their, I don't know.
See, that's
I'm just
the-
throwing it
I don't-
out
yeah.
there
The
just
thing with
because
the
it's a,
morning
Yeah,
is
no.
difficult because camps are starting anywhere between 8 and 9 a.m. generally, you know, and then, you know, people are here on vacation, you know, maybe like headed off to, I think
the beach and everything,
yeah, like
yeah.
sort of post beach,
Dinner?
pre-evening is
Yeah.
probably the best.
nap time.
Ideally,
Maybe
yes.
interfering with the nap.
The only thing is, we had the select board update yesterday at the Athenaeum, and that was at 9:30 in the morning and pretty well attended. So I don't know, on a Monday after a
Yeah.
long weekend.
Really?
So
But it was, yeah, but I would say
is that unique?
there was, yeah, that's once a year, and it.
Well,
and I
but
would
we're
say
also
there probably
talking
were
about
like 20 or
doing
30 people,
several,
probably 30
right.
people who weren't
Right.
affiliated with like the town or
Yeah.
that sort of thing, like who didn't have to be there. So it actually was a lighter turnout than prior years.
Okay. So don't do Monday morning.
So, I mean, when we say early afternoon, like 5, 6, somewhere in that, 4?
I would say 6 to 8.
I mean,
I would think something, if you're trying to hit sort of vacationer crew kind of a thing,
so
you would think something, and I'm just throwing this out there, sort of between beach and dinner.
yeah.
So something between 3:30 and 5:30,
So I
5
was-
o'clock or something like that.
I was gonna say that yesterday I attended at the Dreamland. They have these series of conversations with David Gregory talking to different folks this summer, and I attended the one yesterday. It was at 5 o'clock, and it was if it wasn't completely full, it was pretty darn. The theater was pretty darn full.
Yeah, but that's a different comparison.
Well, I'm just saying that is the 5 o'clock time frame. I think sort of
Interesting.
falls after getting to the beach and so forth, but before people would be going out to evening plans. So anyway, 4:30.
Okay.
Maybe 4:30.
Okay. Well, that sounds reasonable, like a 4:30 to 6:30,
Yeah.
something like that. Okay. And we would shoot for late July on a weekday as opposed to a weekend.
I think so. The
I think
weekend
so.
is-
I think so
Yeah.
too. I think that makes more sense. Okay. And then I would say we'd check. Obviously, this. I think this would be. Oh no, go ahead.
I wouldn't do the 29th. That's the town of Nantucket's doing their first plastics ban workshop at 6.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Good
For
to know.
info session.
What about the 30th?
The 30th, I can't be there, but you guys can hold it.
Thank you.
The 31st, that's a Wednesday. There's no select board meeting.
Oh, that might be.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we try
All right.
that?
Shoot 7:31, 4:30 to 6:30, and ideally this room. I mean, I think this is
That
the
seemed like a good,
seemed like
I
the
mean, it
ideal
has
venue.
enough room for
Right.
everyone if we have
If-
a good
yes.
turnout.
If we have enough,
Yes.
And
Yeah.
enough
people.
I might suggest just billing it as like 4:30 to 6.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
Not 2 full hours. And if we end up staying longer, great. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So this room's probably open.
Conceivably, unless they've got health, board of health or
Right
something.
after this.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds great.
And so then the question is, how do we get the word out? Should I go through Erica and Florencia, or go through Florencia for this?
Does anybody have I'm not a social media, I'm not a social person. I'm a social media person. But I have found that some of those things, like I know people who are, so I can tell them, there's gonna, if we have a title, if we come up with an interesting title and sort of what it's about, and just sort of put it out there on Facebook.
Can we use the
or,
same title that the Dreamland
Yeah.
They said
let's not,
Nantucket
please.
in 2050.
Yeah.
Mayor, question mark.
Yeah, right.
So the Affordable Housing Trust recently was trying to recruit people to advise on the $20 million that was authorized at town meeting. And so we ran an ad in the paper for 2 weeks, and then we used that same ad like with Florencia or on social
Right,
media.
right.
And we got very good response. And I think that particularly the seasonal community does look at the paper when they're
I think you're right. I think we're going to have to use the newspaper
Yeah.
to some degree, and I'm not sure who
The more kinds you can get,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I'm not
Strays Island too.
And try and make it so that the newspaper has a grabbing headline like the one with the
With the mayors,
2100 and the no, because people are going to buy that
sure.
paper, they're going to read, look through it, something like that.
So I don't know, like if we technically have a budget or that sort of but we got to figure out a way to get.
Well, that's it. So I think the next. So I'll reach out to Libby and I guess Florencia and say, okay, this is what we're trying to do. How can we get the word out?
Yeah, so I'll shoot a note to Mary at the paper and just find out what the deal is for like a black and white. I would recommend the same size that we had before, which is sort of like this big, and we really can use the same kind of format as that prior. I'm happy to like write something, but they have the town logo and everything in there, and so I'll shoot you the cost so you can get that.
Great. I mean,
So then
see what the
could
town
we
wants to do.
put a synopsis of the 4 types
of
in the
government.
ad?
I don't
And
think
then give a site to see more, or?
I think the ad I think it'll be too clumsy for
Okay.
the ad, but I think we can, I think it's meant to be kind of a tease about, like
Right.
the town government study committee is, I don't know the right word,
Yeah,
but looking
And
at
then
different.
do we have a,
Here are the exciting topics we're.
Yeah.
making. We'd love to have all your feedback.
Right, exactly.
and would there be a link to something
I would think that
informational
we could have it
so that we
linked-
could have people coming that are
informed. Yeah.
informed?
Have a link to our
We have a
Our
page,
our page with the documents there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have a
that would
page
make the
with
most
documents
sense.
on it, so we
Right.
could include that for sure.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. And then we'd have handouts at the meeting and
Yeah,
see what they want to do.
right.
And then
Okay.
are you going to make the dot chart?
Yeah, I can organize the chart, so we should talk a little bit about like how we want to be presenting the the information. I mean, I think we could say something, and this is just off the top of my head, but something generally about the purpose of the town government study committee, every 5 years, kind of mandated to take a look at our form of town government and make recommendations. Is it serving us correctly? There's been, discussion about in the community about, does our current form of town government still work? Or is it working as well as it could work? And so there are several different options. Some are dependent upon the next census and the determination of the size of the year-round community officially by the government. But here, the different types of government, here's sort of what they entail, and maybe I don't know if we include on the sort of the chart that people can put dots on and so forth. But maybe we can speak to some of the pros and cons, like from our discussions with different folks we've interviewed along the way. Because I mean, everything we've heard about has pros and cons.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as you're speaking, I start to think about, well, maybe the first meeting is more of a educational, informational discussion session through which information is gathered that would help create deeper discussion that would bring you to people choosing things. Do you see what I mean there?
Yeah,
Like-
I think we could do again, I'm sort of making this up as we talk about
yeah.
it, but maybe we could do sort of an informational discussion at the beginning, and then actually, say now we're going to hand out dots, take a few minutes, go around, and we could even have a board that says something like, I don't know what the right form of government is, but I know what we've got isn't working well.
we don't have it.
something like-
Yeah.
Or works, doesn't work.
Something like that,
Yeah.
so that you don't necessarily have to say, oh, I want a mayor, or I want
Right.
the current form.
Right,
but,
right.
Yeah,
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, just to
Yeah.
get a sense.
Just to get a sense of.
That'd be interesting. Yes.
And then have one that says, times for the next meeting.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
that's-
To try and get an idea, because otherwise I think we just try and guess when people do dinner or
People show up.
kids or
Yep.
sports or,
Yep. And maybe
knows?
the answer is early morning. Who
Well,
knows?
we should. Why don't we? I think we should pick a couple options for call it the August meeting now. So just again to reserve the space, and we can determine later which one we advertise.
and with Wednesdays being open,
Not
or every
not-
other
yeah.
Wednesday,
Yes.
maybe,
Yeah.
just as a
Yeah.
toss out, and it's in the middle of the week, so it's not like a Thursday, Friday, people heading out or
Are you select board
getting
meeting
involved in a
Yeah. I think
weekend or
it's
whatever.
I agree.
I mean the 7th and the 21st of August. So ideally 14th, because I think after that we might start to see some summer residents start to
Yeah.
head back.
Yeah. The first couple weeks
Yep.
for sure. Yeah.
So if we could do 8/14,
Okay.
that would make sense to me.
So we want to try to book the same time frame, 4:36.
I think so, unless
Okay.
unless nobody shows up, in which case we
Right.
scramble. But ideally, I think we shoot for that. Okay. I would also suggest that we can do that later. But I was going to say suggest figuring out our next meeting,
Right.
but we can do that.
Yeah.
That's later on in the agenda. Okay, so right now we're trying to lock in 2 public hearings, one in July, one on July 31st, 4:30 to 6. August 14th, 4:30 to 6 in this room if possible, and we will check to see, and we'll work on.
If this room is not possible, what's our backup choice?
Darn good question. I would think somewhere like the Athenaeum. I think. I mean, I'm open to ideas, but I would think that in terms of either Athenaeum or high school, maybe.
I think the high school's too big.
Yeah, I probably
They have
is,
that
but
conference one downstairs.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a
The
good
Right.
LGI.
Yeah. That's
And we were in the cafeteria.
right.
right. Good old days.
So 8:14.
Where else can NCTV 18? We want them to be able to record it.
Water company's too small.
I mean,
Yeah.
is training room too small?
You mean the one upstairs?
Yeah.
I think it's short of the school. It's probably the or Athenaeum, probably the next best option. I mean, I'm not sure NCTV can do Athenaeum. Maybe they can. I don't know what Civic League does.
They can, but these rooms are already equipped.
Right.
Yeah.
It would make life a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we shoot for this, and if maybe as a backup, the one upstairs, and then
Right.
we can start to scramble
Yeah.
to see what plans C and D are. Okay.
The Dreamland?
There's a cost associated with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, there was talk that we had a budget from a few years ago. I'm not sure if that's still the case. So we need to find out
Right.
that.
Well, okay, so ideally, this would be the spot. It's got the TV, the audio, the seating,
It's got the parking. I mean,
it's got the parking,
it's-
yes.
It checks a lot of, if not all, the boxes.
It's handicap accessible.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we'll shoot for this, and if this does not pan out, we will confer and figure out what else to do. Okay. Are we all good with that of the time, date, location of the public hearings throughout the summer?
Yeah. Do you make a motion on that, or do we just go along?
I don't know that we need to. I don't know that we need to
we
make a
have to
motion
motion
for this. Yeah, I think we're all right. All right. Why don't we do the next item of this is discussion of the telephone conference with town council. Campbell, I'm not so. I'll quickly bring you up to speed on this one. We've had 2 issues. I guess you could call them 3. Come up. Members of the public were concerned about. Let's see. Two were sort of on the same. Have the same idea of creating a, let's call it a complaints committee.
I heard that one,
Yes.
or at least from one gal anyway at
Yes.
town meeting.
Yes. So that has been percolating for the last year or 2, and so we brought the sponsors of the warrant article in, and we actually had Lauren Goldberg from Town Council's office chat with us about called the pros and cons of such a committee. And before we get into that, there's also another gentleman who had who was focused on same vein to a degree, except that he referred to as a government maladministration. And it was sort of a complaints committee or an oversight board to say, well, if a town official is not doing their job.
Wait, which one is that one?
Mr. Pearson's.
Okay. Okay.
Am I categorizing that
Well,
correctly?
I sort of thought I'd put him with the
I
other
think
one.
I think they're the same and
So
sort of different at the same time.
There was some talk of like the term ombudsman was used at one point, but that was originally brought up, and this is what I think was the second category. The second category was sort of around. This came out of the Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayers, which is a formal town committee.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, the seasonal residents here pay 85% of the property taxes. And so there was simply a question of, I think there were 1 or 2 articles, actually not this year, but the year before, that had come up where the seasonal community had some thoughts about those articles in particular. And so there was a desire of, how can, by definition, they're not here in the off season when town meeting takes place. How can the seasonal community's viewpoint, not that it's necessarily always uniform, but in general, how could it be represented more at town meeting? And technically speaking, I think in the charter, the seasonal community is basically allowed to have one person
They've got their
who
singular
can speak
voice
about everything, which is a little impractical. So the notion was simply should there be like an ombudsman who could perform both that role, but then other ombudsman type duties?
That's right. And then Mr. Pearson took that to mean someone who could be oversight, who could come to if he is aggrieved, he doesn't like what the sewer department or the health department does, that he can go to the ombudsman and they can overrule the sewer department. Yes.
Sounds a little like sticky wicket.
Yeah, that's
I get the sort of the having a place where you can go where you feel that you are being fairly heard.
Yep.
And fairly addressed. Your issues are being fairly addressed. But the other one sounds a little bit like someone who has detail thinking and wants a particular thing and just keeps hammering on it because he thinks or she thinks or they think for them. You see what I mean? So that other one seems a little stickier to me than the sort of fair and open.
So this is something that we have discussed, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is sort of I think they're both sticky. And it's sort of, I mean, there is a forum now for when you have a complaint of this nature or that nature. And it's a little bit that, you know, if you don't like that answer, how are you going to be guaranteed you're going to like the answer that comes from the new forum? You know what I mean?
So I'll jump in. And so Lauren Goldberg spoke with us for probably about an hour and a half, and she was terrific. She was absolutely tremendous, and she answered all of the questions. And her advice, more or less, was you're opening a can of worms that you don't want to open with creating a complaints committee or giving one person or one committee power over other departments.
Right.
It really diminishes the form of and the roles and responsibilities of the government. So the avenue for relief, if you are aggrieved, is always the legal system. Whether you like it or not, you can always appeal things to courts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think some of the members of the public who were there took that to heart. I think they understood that it's just was not going to conceivably work, that there were too many unintended consequences by creating something like this. And so that's pretty much where she left things with us. This is the first meeting we've had since that discussion with her. And so the other 3 board members who are not here could certainly chime in at the appropriate time, but that seemed to be where we were. And ultimately we will need to take a formal position on it. But certainly the advice from town council at this point is not to go forward with any type of complaints committee.
Or
yeah, we're ombudsman. Yeah, however you want to, however you want.
Well, I think when you hire the consultants to come in and look at everything and then give you a report of an analysis of how the system is working and where it could improve, I think that sort of is your ombudsman thing. I mean, that's bringing in a third party to go through your systems and right, that provides a check on things. And then
and I should, not to interrupt you, but I should add that what Lauren did suggest as a potential solution or a way to help would be to add, or at least clarify in the charter, accountability, that who is responsible to who, and so that there is a sort of a clear and concise chain of command or process on, if you are aggrieved by this action, here's what you can do, just so it's more clear for the layperson who is entrenched in government.
Related to that, I think for the public hearings, that in addition to like the big topic of form of government, we should also have a board or boards with those areas that Christy, I think, is really the one who's kept track of, where we want to make recommendations like that, so that we can bullet point at a minimum the different areas and maybe solicit, again, further feedback of improvements or tightening of the charter or what have you.
Yeah, and just to digress for a second, I think where we will be headed ultimately will be that we will be able to make charter changes for relatively simple things. Let's call it, and Lauren Goldberg, she's kindly going to look through the charter and make sure that we're up to date with current Mass General laws, things like that. Just and just to make sure the syntax is correct. Change Board of Selectmen to Select Board. Things of that.
I did think that was cute in the one where it's written up and I was like, wait a minute, I thought we just passed a thing in town meeting and get rid of that. No.
So things like that, things where we're saying, hey, we've heard we've heard from people, and these are concerns that they have. This is not necessarily within our purview. This is more of a managerial or an operational issue, but these are concerns that we've heard. You may want to address these at some point in the future. And then I think the big one would be something like changing the form of government. You say, my take, regardless of how we come down, is if this is, regardless of how we suggest the town proceed, that they, if they are so inclined to change the form of government, that they would need to do a significant amount of public outreach and research, and effectively hire a consultant to figure out exactly the best way to do it, if that's something they want to go down, at least down the road of representative town meeting. But anyway, just sort of that we've got the three tiers of things that we'd be looking at. Okay. Anything else on the discussion of the telephone conference? Okay. All right.
So I just,
Yep.
excuse me a minute.
Yes.
So are you considering warrant articles, or is she going to get back to you with information from the charter? Because those would have to be warrant articles.
That's correct. And so in a perfect world, we would be on for April of 2020.
Okay.
And if stars align, we can do that. That's great. If not, then
Otherwise, there's another year.
otherwise there's another year.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's important that we have some stuff for 2020. I mean, like this has been around for a couple of years. Like, I think we need to. I mean, there's clearly.
And this issue has come up enough at town meeting, at
Yeah.
least 3 times over an equal amount of years. So it would be good to start trying to address it. So
sure.
that, I think sometimes people, if they start to see that there's actually motion towards the resolution of something, they start to, feel
And
better.
that was one of the handful of questions at the session yesterday, was about the
interesting.
form of government.
Interesting. Discussion of the note. Oh, so moving on. Discussion of the Novak report. The board member who wished to have this on is not here today, so I would suggest that we table this until the next meeting, and so that we can also circulate the Novak.
I was gonna say I might have missed it, but did we get the?
We did not.
Is it on the town website?
I'm not sure if it is. If we'll see if we can get a copy of it, and
I thought I read a couple of reports, so.
understood. So we'll move that one on to our next meeting.
Well, we can move it on to the next meeting, but we should get the report
Agreed.
right.
Yes.
Right, so,
Much like action item number 9, again, a different board member was unable to attend, but wanted to put this on as well. The Nantucket Historical Commission proposal. I'm not sure what the proposal is, and I'm not sure it's been circulated. So until we can get a chance to look at it, I would just as soon
so then,
table that one.
just to see if I can figure this out. So then the person that was going to talk about the Novak report has the Novak report and could email it to us? Is that the idea?
I don't know if the person has it or has read it or wants to talk about it generally.
Then can I volunteer to look for it on the website, and if I find it,
So
I
moved.
send it to you?
Send it to me, so we're not
And
worried
then-
about any open meeting issues.
Thank you. And
Absolutely.
then you can
I will disseminate appropriately,
disseminate from there. So I'm happy to do that.
and I'll ask Curtis to do the same for the Historical Commission proposal, so we can have that for as well. Okay, timeline for summer. In addition to our public hearings, I think it would be prudent to meet. I don't know if we want to start doing bi-weekly or every third week or every second Tuesday of them, whatever it may be. But I think
So I would suggest we have one meeting before the first public hearing.
I agree.
Should be
And
a
then-
workshop-like hearing or a meeting, right? Like a workshop focused basically on that presentation. Is that?
Well, I mean, we can
Or
we
you
can
guys
focus on
already
that.
know what you're gonna do for that?
Well, I guess the question will be how much discussion we anticipate having on the Novak report and the historical commission
Okay.
proposal, and if we need,
Okay.
and if those can just, frankly, if those can wait another couple weeks
Right.
as well.
Yeah, I think the main event is getting ready for the
I
meeting.
tend to agree with you. Yeah.
And then I would suggest that I don't know if we necessarily need to meet until after the 2 hearings have happened.
Do you think it's worth meeting in between
Well,
to
that's a
recap?
question.
Just to say like what went right or wrong or what to change?
Yeah, that may not be a bad idea. Even if we tentatively schedule one, even if we then have to cancel it and say, hey,
Sure.
Right.
this was a
Right.
rousing success. Let's just duplicate it for August. We're on it. Or boy, this was a colossal failure, wasn't it? What can we do to change this?
Well, so the
Yeah.
first one is July 31st.
Correct.
The second one
Right.
is August 14th.
Correct.
So.
And we wouldn't need a large room to meet in, right?
not
No, we could do
necessarily.
water
But
company.
it all
Yeah.
depends.
Right.
So we need to book the room, but also, when do we want to do it?
I would think that it would be the first full week in August. So the week of August 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
When's the Pops?
The 10th.
The 10th? Okay,
So-
because that'll kick off race week.
Okay.
With the Opera House Cup the following
Okay.
Sunday.
Okay. So maybe earlier in that week, like the 5th or the 6th?
And then, so do we want to maybe do like, we'll put it this way, is it too tight if we do July 29th? Like the Monday at 1 o'clock? You know, in advance of the 31st? and
I
then
don't-
the 5th, say, Monday?
I don't know that it would be too tight.
Okay.
Because it's not that we need to post things publicly. Yeah, I mean, all the advertisements will have gone out.
Right.
It's just sort of internally what we need to prepare for the meetings.
That's why I said like a work group
yeah.
versus a
Yeah.
public meeting.
All right. You can talk
So-
me into it.
So should we plan for 1 o'clock on the
7th.
Can you do that?
We have the neighborhood first.
Oh, that's
on
the
that day.
29th, right. Oh, yes. That's a big deal. So let's do I guess maybe do you want to look at the end of that prior week?
The
Yeah.
26th.
I was gonna say Friday is not bad for me. If I don't know how bad Fridays are for other people.
The 25th,
The 26th.
26th? 1 o'clock?
That's 1 o'clock, 26th. Let's do it.
Cancel, does that work?
Yeah, I can always make it work.
So, all right, 26th Friday, 1 o'clock, we'll find a room, and then 1 o'clock Monday, the 5th for the other
8,
one.
5. Yeah, and we'll find a room.
Yeah. And then I
Okay.
do think actually we should vote.
Wait, why are we meeting the 5th?
That was your interim meeting.
Yeah,
Oh.
interim to see if everything worked well or not.
Did you want to do the Monday before on the 12th, or do you want to keep the whole week?
Either. Doesn't,
It doesn't matter to me.
I'm not very available, and that does not mean it can't happen
On which one, the 5th or?
in that during race week.
is that the 12th
Okay.
or the 5th?
I think race week is the 10th through the 17th.
So then
Okay.
let's do it the 5th.
I just do a lot of volunteering.
Yeah.
Understood. So,
Okay.
let's plan
So let's
on
do
1
August
o'clock
that
at
time.
August 5th.
So does that present any issues with the August 14th date, Campbell? The hearing?
It's at 4:30,
Yeah.
so that should be fine.
Okay, great.
So we should probably vote formally, technically, to authorize, like, let's say John and I to work together to place an ad for the hearing,
So moved.
if we can
Okay.
get by the
Motion made. Is there
I'll
a
second
Oh,
it.
thank you. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So Tucker, you and I
Yeah.
in it to win it. Okay. So and my suggestion also will be after say 8:14, that meeting, that we will figure out a more, let's call it regimented schedule for the fall.
Yeah, yeah.
And discuss the public hearings for then as well. Okay.
And I think we should include both dates in the ad.
Yes, I agree.
Just so people are aware and
Yep.
can plan accordingly.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Cool. Any other business? Hearing none.
Oh.
I thought I had run
There we
into
go.
that.
All right.
somewhere.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, public.
Did you want to give an update about Saturday?
Yes. Okay. Saturday, Association of Non-Voting Taxpayers. Is that?
Sure.
They're having a meeting at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and have asked some of us to attend.
Oh, great.
So I will be there with bells on, and if anybody else would like to join me, by all means, they're
It's a good group.
welcome to do so.
It's 10 a.m. on Saturday. Is it here?
I don't know where. I think it's at the Athenaeum,
Oh, is it?
but I'll check with Bill.
It's been upstairs here the last couple of years, but
I say my meeting is upstairs with them.
Okay, I'll check, and if we need to file a public meeting, if we have more
I won't
board
be
members
on
attend.
island.
Otherwise, I'll go there and give my 2 cents to Mr. Sherman.
And then I know we also had talked about doing like a civic league.
And I think that we should have Rick
Okay.
sort of spearhead that one, since he is as involved.
And
in
trying to
this.
go to Rotary, and there was a couple of things lined up that we had talked about
Yes,
a couple months ago.
yes. I assume, maybe this is me, but I assume Rotary is mostly year-rounders.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say. Okay. In other words, that we could do.
It's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know how accurate it is, but it's fair.
I don't know if, in other words, that we could do that in September.
Yeah.
That's all.
so Christy, can you forward? Because I think you're the keeper of that list of things that we kind of said we're going to look at these, but not at those. And can you forward that around? And if Campbell hasn't seen it yet, it would be good for her.
Campbell's seen
I think
what,
it is
what we sent.
on our website.
Yeah, what we gave to
All right,
at
I
a
just want to
town
make
meeting.
sure we got
Yeah.
the current one
Yeah.
for this upcoming public.
Yeah.
And I did download
Yeah,
minutes and stuff from the
The
website.
few that we've posted.
We're working on it
All
when
two of them?
we're understaffed.
I think there were 4, actually, to be
probably.
accurate.
Probably. Okay. Unless there's any other business, may I have a motion to adjourn at 2:18?
So
All right. Motion made, seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.